Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us as we've got another show as we get ever closer to Vermont Town Meeting Day coming up on Tuesday, March 5th. We're taping this show on Tuesday, February 20th, Town Meeting Day, just 2 days away. And we're going to be talking about Swanton Village issues, of which there are no lack. Happy to have three guests. Outgoing, longtime village trustee Chris Leach. Chris? Neal Speer, the Swanton Village President. Bill Sheets, the Swanton Village Manager. And I should note, Neal Speer, the Village President, has, I guess, his first contested race. Neal is seeking re-election to a one-year term as Swanton Village President, being challenged by David Winchester. And Chris, with your open seat, two candidates, Susie Kelleher and Shane Mott, seeking to succeed you on the board. And I want to start with you. I got to look at the Swanton Village report, and seems very fitting that it's basically dedicated to you. And I knew you were on the board for a long time. I don't think I would have guessed 28 years, almost 3 decades. That's an incredible long time of public service. Okay, have you counted up the meetings? Can you tell me how many meetings that is? We're in the hundred. Are we even a thousand?
Tell you this.
Maybe?
I only missed 3 or 4.
Is that right? 3 or 4 in 28
but
years.
The years just flew by.
Yeah. Was it just time to move on? Did you think about running again, or?
Well, I'm looking at 80 years old,
Wow.
and I'm probably not functioning at the level that I did even 3 years ago.
Yeah. I'm younger than you, and I can relate to the comment, but not to beat up on you at all.
To do this job and do it right, you really have to do your homework.
Gee, have you thought about talking to maybe our 2 key presidential candidates about that issue, perchance? I wish you would. Sorry.
Believe me, I watch the news and I understand.
Yeah.
We over the years, I mean, I think back of when I first joined, there was a controversy. They wanted to sell our power plant. The whole country was in this mode of divesting of generation. Then we had a big gigantic ice storm, and
Well, I remember that when I got to know Reg Bellevue, in fact.
Yeah.
Bellevue, your former longtime village manager,
Yep.
especially during the, 1998, I think, or 97, one of the 2 years. But
Yep.
serious.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
No, Reg did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
He brought us into the 21st century.
Yeah.
George focused most, George Legue,
Like,
the previous,
Yeah.
or George was brought on board to when we rebuilt the power plant.
And of course, he was a big
which
power
was before
guy.
my time, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was his baby, and that was where he was focused. And Reg brought more focus on their other 2 companies,
Yeah.
as well as what we're doing. Reg did a great job, and he worked hard.
Wow.
And Bill Sheets is polishing that too. He's in this 1 year here. He's brought so much more energy and so many new thoughts and ideas to the board that it's been very, very good. And I think it's a good time for me to duck out.
Yeah.
I think things are good. Neal's been a wonderful president. Adam is a local forever. He knows everybody in town. I mean, you've interviewed him. He's really good.
Gene LeBombard's got a pretty good handle on what's going on.
He's a chemist.
Yeah.
He oversees the water and sewer plants. He knows his stuff. We work. It's a balanced group. We worked very well together. We got a lot accomplished, and it was a pleasure to work with those guys. I pride myself on trying my best to represent the how do I want to say it, the
constituents.
most of the people that don't get much recognition. The silent majority, I guess I would say. I worked hard at listening. I didn't go out and poke the bear, but I listened and tried to react appropriately. And I don't see that in a lot of politicians these days. I don't consider myself a politician. I'm an engineer. I live by the scientific method. I test what I believe to be true and make sure it's true, and I test what I believe to be false and make sure it's false, and I keep testing because things change.
Does the village, is it a much more complicated, just running the village, a lot more complicated than almost 30 years ago when you first started on the board?
Oh,
or-
yes, I mean, at every level. I
Yeah.
mean, we originally had a constable for a police department,
Right, really?
and he used to pull me over regularly.
Huh.
And today, it's just a totally different world. We're blessed with a wonderful police department that does their job. We say we're fully staffed, but we're still a little bit behind the eight ball. There's a lot going on safety-wise behind the scenes. I mean, when I'm out there testing the waters and talking to people their first concern is safety. And then they want the lights on and they want their water to be clean, you know, the little niceties. They want a village where they can live and recreate and be proud of and be glad to come home to. And that has been the theme that I've been trying to you know, uphold for all these years. My wife and I picked Swanton. We were born in St. Albans. My wife was a Swanton girl, but when we were choosing where to raise our family, we had a little girl that we'd just been born. We picked Swanton, and we did. It was the right choice. New schools, lots of good people. You could walk the streets. You're close to the lake. Perfect.
Well, again, 28 years, just an incredibly long tenure, so good for you. I'm sure you'll be missed very much.
Well, thank you. It wasn't an easy decision.
Yeah. Well,
But it's the right one.
You have some big issues to deal with just before you head out the door, and I guess let's get right to it. Again, the big issue, of course, Article 6 before village voters on March 5th is the proposed public safety facility. Who wants to jump into that? And I guess you're already built kind of on Plan B. That started out with a price tag of a little over $19 million, and you took out basically the part of it that would have remodeled or renovated the village complex itself, and concentrating just on the public safety building at this point.
That's correct. So the original proposal was 2 phases, the creation of a new public safety facility
Yeah.
for 14.8, followed by a little more than $5 million renovation. So the renovation aspect has been shelved, and it's an acknowledgement of all of the pressures facing our taxpayers.
Yeah.
And it remains a very large ask with a vision for fixing our space issues and maximizing our safety and security for the community for the next 50 years.
Yeah. And again, you've had, I know a lot of, talked to Neal about this on an earlier show, but a lot of chances for the public to see what you're dealing with, and sounds like you had many chances for the public to do that, and some of the public took advantage of that, but
Very few, actually.
Very
So
Wow.
we were hoping to have more. We have 34 open houses under our belt,
34.
3 remaining.
I hope nobody's criticizing you folks for not trying to get information out. But
We're
I'm sure there's
being-
criticism about everything. of
We're
course,
being criticized for having too many.
Is that right, for having
We
too
are.
many?
But we are less, well under 100 individual different people coming
Wow.
in over those 34
Wow.
meetings.
What-
We have
what's the-
3 more tomorrow.
How many registered voters for Swanton Village, roughly?
About 1,600,
I think it's 18.
1,656, I
Wow.
think.
Yeah, just over
And-
1,600.
And so you just had about 100 different people?
Not just village, outside the village, even
Oh,
outside the area. And so
Huh.
individual, non-repeat customers, I think we're less than 80.
Wow.
We had a fellow at one of our last meetings, was from St. Albans, but owns property in Swanton, owns a lot of property in Swanton, and he was very impressed with our proposal for public safety. And it seemed a little reassuring to have somebody that owns property in Swanton be so much in support of our proposal. I mean, we all know it's, like Bill says, it's a big ask,
Yeah.
but I think one thing that we have got across is the majority of the people that come do realize we need some space. I mean, whether it's going to be a new public safety building or what,
Yeah.
we've got them realizing that we need more space. So we've got that point across, and that this more space is gonna be real expensive, so.
What are you hearing on the street, Chris? You think you have a shot at approval for this?
Actually, the people that have spoke to me are in support of it.
Yeah.
They feel a little bit remorse because of the fact there's so many other projects, federal-wise, state-wise,
Yeah.
that are asking for their dollar. And everybody's dollar, even though they tell us things are up, the price of things are up, so the pressure on your disposable income is very high. But I support this project because, one, it's very well thought out. It's been very well researched, and the way to pay for it makes sense. If you're going to do something piecemeal, it always costs more. It's like, you never save money by putting off maintenance.
Yeah.
Now, we, as a trustees board, knew about our space problem. But when the opportunity came up with some ARCA funds to purchase the Anderson Carroll property next door, which is perfect.
Where the facility would be located on that.
Be located right next to what we had.
Yeah.
It was the impetus to get
Interesting.
the job done. We know that costs are going up. They're not going to stabilize no matter what happens at the federal government level right now. A year from now, things are still going to be costing more. So and if we do this piecemeal, in other words, if we make a little input for the fire department and make a little input for the police department, and all of a sudden the office, if the combined costs are going to be way more than they are now, which impacts people more. It's like an old Coach Bob White in St. Albans told us all, short-term pain for long-term gain.
Right.
Well, that works with economics as well. If you can spend a few hard-earned dollars today, you can save save yourself from expense from more hard-earned dollars in the future.
Yeah.
Pouring over the dollars, probably it won't be quite as expensive as we think. It won't be order of magnitude less, but these are the worst cost scenarios. And the outcome and the downlook for 50 years, the opportunities to work with our surrounding communities and having the emphasis and be ready for that just makes so much sense that I just hope the voters can just understand that and move forward. The things we hear on social media, these people with their hidden agendas, they don't really understand what's going on. They're looking at things with tunnel vision instead of looking outside the box a little bit. If you're going to live in Swanton for the next 20 years or whatever, the foreseeable future for you and your family, this is the right thing to do. It's a little painful right now. It would have been easier maybe a little bit earlier, but we didn't have the opportunity to buy that land. We didn't have this one more shot that would make it sensible to move forward into it now. This is the right time. And doing it sort of together makes so much more sense economically as well as for opportunities for the future. It's just, I couldn't be more behind it than I am. And I'm pretty frugal, believe me.
I assume you're not running into too many people who are saying you don't need to do anything, what you have is fine, and you're not running into too many people who say that. Is it just kind of more of a price tag concern? Is that the obvious biggest concern here or not?
Richard, there's plenty of those types of people.
Is that one?
That's
So plenty
the
of people who
minority.
say what you're doing fine, you've been, why can't you keep going the way you've been going?
Right.
There are a small percentage of people, I believe in every community,
Yeah.
that it's a prideful moment when they can walk in and vote no for everything.
Yeah.
I think in large part what we're hearing directly even for those folks that can't fiscally support this, they understand the concept
Yes.
and they understand the need and support what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, Richard. I think we got the point across that we need space. Whether this is the right plan, they'll let us know on that, but we set up the open houses to try to inform the people. Unlike Chris was saying, social media, they don't have to be accountable for their reaction. We were trying to present the truth and the real world scenario, and we're hoping that we got that out to the majority of the people.
Neal, are you suggesting that there's been some misinformation on social media? Are you suggesting?
You
I'm
think?
kidding, I'm
Oh,
kidding.
is that what
And
I
I don't deal with social media, but I hear stories myself.
Yeah, so,
Bill, getting down to just kind of real basics,
Yeah.
the average hit on the average taxpayer with the public safety facility, can you get into that a bit?
I can, but we're getting ahead of ourselves
Yeah.
because there's no fiscal impact in 2024. So any voter that's walking in,
Oh,
whether you're in the village or
point.
the
That's a
town
good point to
side,
make.
it is,
Okay.
our request this year, absent the bond vote, is
Yeah.
not insignificant. We're asking for an across-the-board 17.89% increase based on a number of factors, but largely
Yeah.
driven by police and public works.
Okay. And I should note, Swanton Town folks have, one of their big articles is voting on whether to, fund police, some more police coverage, going from 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Correct, but with a recognition
Yeah.
that they're paying an appropriate price for that coverage.
Right. I mean, I guess from your point of view, I assume you would say Swanton Town folks have been getting a pretty good deal for a while on police coverage,
right.
They have.
Yeah, for what
So
that's worth.
the math is really easy. When they get 1/3 of all shifts, all patrol shifts.
So is that right, 1/3?
So it's only natural, they get 1/3 of the
Okay.
chief's time, they get 1/3 of dispatch cost, insurance cost,
Yeah.
all costs. So they're walking in to vote on a contract for 70 hours per week for $475,000.
Yeah.
That's a well over 100% increase from last contract, which was 56 hours. But it is reasonable and unanimously supported by the select board
Yeah.
in bringing that motion, that article to the voters.
Yeah. Again, I've been interviewing candidates. One of the Swanton Select Board candidates, of course, they asked that question to the candidates, and one of the candidates said, yeah, I want police coverage, but what we're being asked to fund is too much. And I said, so if that goes down, then what? And the candidate said, well, we'll get state police to cover us. And I said, wow, I hope you know more than I do. I think state police are stretched pretty thin. And if said candidate was hoping to get a lot of state police presence in the town, I think that candidate's dreaming. Maybe I'm off, but I don't think so. And again, you're a former state police guy. I mean, state police are what, Dan?
Never
Still-
designed to cover 212 towns with
Right.
50 vacancies for complete policing services.
So we're still talking about 50 trooper vacancies or so?
Yes,
Wow.
yeah.
And I can only assume some of the St. Albans barracks, probably at all the barracks, are down somewhat.
They
I assume.
share those vacancies fairly
Yeah.
equitably,
Yeah.
just based on need.
Yeah. So anybody out there expecting state police to kind of fill the gap, it just sounds like totally unrealistic.
It's really what you're looking for if you're running on the platform of let's eliminate all costs.
Yeah.
It's a great platform.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
But it's not realistic. We hear a lot of that. There's a false narrative that people don't need policing and the bravado of, if you come to my house, I have guns, I can protect myself.
Yeah.
Policing is outside of your domain, right? There's so many more things related to what the Swanton Village Police Department, St. Albans City are doing in terms of crime and drug enforcement and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Just again, the number of search warrants last year, just in Swanton Village and town, the areas we cover, 53. We used to be in single digits.
Really?
These are massive, big crimes that need to be aggressively enforced or people are going to take root in your community.
Is that right?
That
So
behavior is going to continue.
So one a week on average, as opposed to single digits not that many years ago?
Correct.
Interesting.
And I don't see that pace slowing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one of the issues I was telling you about in the previous interview.
Yeah.
People stating that Swanton community hasn't grown. Well, there's a perfect instance that it has grown.
Sounds like crime's grown a bit, huh?
It's the seriousness of it. It's not just crime, right? You want to provide wraparound services, but in the last 2 years, just in the village, there's been 4 distinct examples. One was a homicide in our area.
Yeah.
The other 3 were aggressive enforcement approaches that moved that behavior outside of our community, yet led to homicides. 1 in Leicester, 2 in Burlington,
Yeah.
4 in the state of Massachusetts.
Wow.
And if we didn't address that behavior, they don't leave your community unless you force them to leave your community. So those crimes would have eventually occurred right in our backyard.
The chief's report in their book,
Yeah.
it's
Highlights them.
3 or 4 pages,
Yes.
highlights some of the behind-the-scenes things that are going on.
Yeah.
And it's sort of anti-Vermont that we would think this is here, but it definitely is. It's like, and the Homeland Security people, the customs people, all have the same story to tell. Their workload is way up. The paperwork is not diminished. You know, it's the, like I said way back when we had one constable, he can handle it. But today it's such a different world. There's so many influences. It's not just local issues. It's state and federal issues that are happening right in our community.
I think we talked off air. Again, we're taping this show on Tuesday, February 20th. Yesterday, I didn't see it, but I've heard about it. The New York Post story, a front page story about illegal aliens crossing the border, but focusing on the Swanton sector and the Swanton-Alberg area. I forget if we talked about that on air, I think off air, but anyway, front page story, New York Post. So the northern border getting, everybody's, I think, seen what's going on the southern border, but sounds like it's no picnic up here either.
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I think that's a growing, persistent problem.
Yeah. And Swanton Village Police, I assume they have some involvement with this, Bill? Have they come across some folks?
From time to time,
Once in
more
a
when
while.
we're working details with the
Yeah.
Border Patrol. So there's enforcement overtime details,
Yeah.
Operation Stone Garden, when available on an overtime capacity only.
Yeah.
We do work very closely with them. And Border Patrol's been great partners.
Yeah.
Because again, it doesn't matter what color uniform you have on, when it's an
Right.
absolute critical incident and there's shots fired or people are in danger,
Yeah.
you don't care what kind of patch they have on their uniform, as long as they're there to support one another. And that's really been consistent over time. So we work very closely with Border Patrol.
Yeah. So again, you're obviously running into X number of people who may have decent words for the public safety facility project, but say, sorry, it's too much, can't afford it. What do you tell those folks? I mean, you're certainly making the case for it now, but anything much to tell folks who say, sorry, I'm not voting for it because I just can't afford it, or it's too much.
Well, I guess the best thing you could say is you respect their opinion,
Yeah.
and you're welcome to it. And if we vote it down, like Bill says, we're gonna have to come up with an alternative plan, or the services that Swanton community is gonna receive are going way down the tubes.
Yeah.
It is a big ask, and it's everything, like I was telling you before, the timing for this proposal, after we proposed it, everybody else is proposing 20% property tax increases, the school budgets are going way up, so everybody is shell-shocked, but we're gonna have to take a stand somewhere.
Yeah.
And am I gonna try to tell them how to vote? No, that's their right, and we're hoping they use their best judgment to vote in a positive manner, so.
I assume you probably haven't, well, maybe I shouldn't assume anything. Is there a plan C if this is defeated? Have you given much thought to what you might do? Or are you obviously hoping for a positive vote and you'll take it from there, or?
No, there's an ongoing discussion. I think
Yeah.
the most obvious path forward for us would be to take the electric company and move it next door
Really?
and put it on half, pick the half that best suits it,
Um,
and then go from there. I think I could, in writing right now, make a guess that by doing that and renovating the L, so we would take the entire support staff, myself, enough room to make the L where the police department is now,
yeah.
and renovate it, I think the price tag is going to be more than 14.8.
Really? You think it'd be a bigger price tag?
Put it right on the recording in perpetuity. I think we will end up paying more if we do that.
And I guess you hear that with renovation projects sometimes seem to be more costly than new projects.
Right. The nuance difference there is that the electric company could go over. It would be more evenly spread out, so that's fair. There's 3,800 ratepayers in the village, the town, and Highgate. We would go in front of the PUC and we would ask for a rate increase using our partners at VEPSA, Vermont Public Power Supply Authority,
Yeah.
and rates would go up, and we would no longer be the third lowest electric company in the state of Vermont.
Well,
Swanton, over the years, we've had a really good record of managing big projects. Think about, we just replaced our dam. Did our electric rates get affected terribly? No. We've revamped our water plant. We did some serious upgrades with new filters and other pieces. Substantial expense. Did our water rates go up? No. Management, understanding finance. Our comptroller lady is awesome at understanding what's going on. We got a lady grant writer that's, I just can't sing her praises any higher.
my old
Being
friend
able-
Heidi Bridge, yes.
Heidi Bridge,
will
yes.
let I know Heidi
She-
well.
She works magic. And so, our track record is awesome. Everything we've done is pretty much worked out as we explained, and to the benefit of our taxpayers and our ratepayers.
Yeah.
And this project would be the same way. People would just understand that this isn't our first rodeo. We know what we're up to, and we know how to do things. It's not a shot in the dark. We just hope people will take a breath and do their homework and come forth and do the right thing. As Bill says, if we do it piecemeal, we know it's going to cost more. It's a fact. It's not speculation. It's the truth. It's happened time after time. If you do things as planned, like a new building on a new lot that's extremely well planned out and understood, those costs can be really managed. When you're going and revamping something or trying to make something work, oftentimes you run up against the unknown, which costs time, costs money, and you don't often get the product you were hoping for.
Yeah. A comment that came up on an earlier show, I probably should have reacted, but I intend to try not to get into stuff. But I believe a comment on an earlier Swanton Village-related show was that the grand list in the village was $1.6 million. I probably should have reacted. That strikes me as just a bit low.
No, that's really close, actually.
Is that right?
It might be up to 1.7 now, grand list.
Well, I guess I would have guessed a lot more.
It's in here,
Really?
yeah.
Well, I guess my mistake.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Again, I'd have to dig for it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's okay.
I think that
yeah.
number's right, and
I
it
think
is
so.
in there.
It is in there, yeah.
But remember, the village, we have 3 companies. We have the electric company,
Yeah.
which is approaching $8 million a year. We have the water, and we have the sewer. And they're all nonprofits. They're all well-run. They all are doing their job well. We've got some wastewater upgrades that are needed, that are coming down the pike, that's already been voted on.
You got approval,
Again,
you got approval for that. from
Exactly, and
voters.
that's why I'm saying, our track record for being able to handle and do these projects without being totally cumbersome to our ratepayers and our taxpayers is probably next to none. I mean, we're really good. And this should be no different.
Time frame for the public safety facility, if you get a positive vote, how soon are you moving on that?
Fall of this year,
Fall of this
Yeah.
year?
October timeframe, could be delayed.
Yeah.
We're finding that everything is delayed.
Yeah.
Whether it's permitting or whatever it might be, everything is a bit delayed. So that could extend into early 2025.
Having trouble just getting folks to do the work, companies to do the work, is that an issue too, or not so much?
I'm told by our construction manager that that's not the issue.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
more of permitting and other things. We just had a conference call with the state of Vermont on other related projects. Permitting on average in the state is 6 to 12 months behind.
Right, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Neal, that's pretty painful to hear that, huh?
Yeah,
Again, permitting.
yeah,
Correct.
Wow.
so. And Riviera Hotel is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Permits and testing results, brownfields testing results, and funding through Northwest Regional Planning is delayed. Not that they're at fault for that,
Yeah.
but every state organization is delaying things, permitting, like he says, so.
Huh.
But,
Again, the hope for this side of the Riviera, your kind of old neighbor there, some housing, is that the hope for that site?
that's the hope for it. How
Yeah.
many units, we're not sure. I think that might be dependent on what the environmental engineers tell us we have to do to clean up. If we can't dig for a foundation, that might limit our options as
Right.
to the amount of housing that we can put on it.
Have you had some informal, you're talking to some folks who might have interest in that, and informally at this point, or?
Informally, we've had a few-
Informally, yeah, we're shaking a few trees
Yeah.
for some senior housing, but it's
Yeah.
less, it's not an ideal
Yeah.
situation. So we've been told
For
it's,
senior housing in particular?
yeah, it's small, it's 6/10 of an acre.
Yeah.
It's got fairly busy traffic on all sides.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
right next to a store, not right next to recreational activity,
Yeah.
but it's great for housing. I just don't think at this point you're going
Right.
to see any real interest in senior housing.
Right, big issue in Highgate. I interviewed
Yeah.
Sharon Bousquet earlier today, in fact, the
Yep.
Highgate Town Administrator, and they're pretty psyched about the possibility of Cathedral Square coming to town with
Great project.
30
Yeah.
units. Sounds like a great
Great
project.
deal for Highgate.
Yep.
And they've had a
That's
presence in St. Albans City for a while
Yeah.
also.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a win for them, for sure.
Yeah.
But, so,
I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't mention just the relicensing issue. Again, you folks, in case people are thinking all these folks have to deal with is a new public safety facility, I think they wouldn't be quite right about that. Again, some progress on that.
Sure,
Bill?
let's call it progress, Richard.
My
No,
word.
it is progress. It's the same situation.
But just incredibly slow,
Next Monday is our presentation internally to Agency of Natural Resources
Okay.
and Fish and Wildlife. And that's a presentation essentially to say, here are the studies performed by our scientists at their direction.
Yeah.
All of our scientists that we use and contract with are former members of Agency of Natural Resources or Fish and Wildlife.
So
In some cases, and/or-
they shouldn't have any beef with who you got to do this work then?
Yeah, that's not true.
Not true, of course.
It's not necessarily a beef with the people.
Yeah.
I think it's a beef with the findings. There's always more.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
these are some of the
it's-
folks who would love for you folks to get rid of the Lower Village Dam. if I'm-
Yeah, that's not part of this process, but I
Okay.
do believe honestly that if we had a dialogue that suggested we were willing to accommodate that,
Would make your case easier?
it would go through immediately.
Right, is that right? Really?
So we're in the process. We've got a great FERC attorney. He represents us well. That is an ongoing, massive project. Licensing is due, relicensing is due April of 2024,
And that's not about to happen?
not in a million years.
Right.
But that's not
And that's
unusual.
no big deal?
It's
or not
no big
unusual?
deal. You run on your former license. It depends what kind of restrictions they want to put on. But it's the other part of misinformation that's out there. Like,
Yeah.
people think back to moving. Why don't we just move the electric department next door? You guys have millions. And
Yeah.
it's not, you don't know what you don't know, so I get that. We have a tremendous amount of equity in the electric company and the
Yeah.
hydroelectric dam. That's not liquid assets. We don't have millions sitting around. In fact, we have enough to ensure that we're doing the right thing for relicensing, the updating of equipment at the hydro facility, throughout the whole system. So it's not a big pool of money that some people think is there, and they think that we can just build without raising rates. But yeah, we remain confident that we're going to make continued progress on our 401, which is through the Agency of Natural Resources. So that's step one, and they're intricately tied together. FERC relicensing and the state of Vermont, even though they're supposed to be separate, distinct processes.
Wow.
And I might add to what Bill was saying about costs for relicensing. The legal costs and the cost to Swanton Village, if there was any pool of money out there, this relicensing fees have sucked a lot of that up. It's millions of dollars to go through the process to get relicensed.
Yeah, the Agency of Natural Resources, this is public documentation, suggested that it will cost us roughly $200,000 to $300,000 a year to do the studies as we prepare for relicensing.
To do the
That's not
studies.
including legal fees.
Right.
We went back to FERC and appealed that, and they thought something more reasonable was in the line of $150,000 to $200,000 a year,
Wow.
and then add legal fees.
Wow.
Running a nonprofit power company with a hydroelectric facility it's not common. There's not a lot of them in Vermont. It's why we include our org chart.
Yeah.
40 full-time professionals, 9 part-time, 30 volunteer firefighting personnel.
Yeah.
When I'm with my colleagues from the League of Cities and Towns and they see that org chart,
Yeah.
one entity has all the things that we do. It's Burlington, and they're run by a mayor.
Is that right?
It's just,
Russ?
while we don't have the employees, our budget rivals St.
Yeah.
Albans City. I think theirs is roughly 14 million, we're 13 million. It's just, so people overlook these enterprises when they look at Swanton Village.
Yeah. I can't imagine what the criticism would be, but no doubt there's criticism. Do you get criticized for the electric department? Do you run into folks who are saying, why are you spending all this money? Or do you really have to go through it? Any
No.
criticism on that?
Tremendous amount of love for the electric
So
department.
the electric department gets...
It is unbelievable. So we had the
you'd think
electric.
so with your electric. You'd think that would be the case.
And
but-
they're responsive, and they're the new fire department. It used to be all the love for the fire department,
Yeah.
and we'll do these open houses now. It'll get to Dwayne, our leader in electric, and he'll give a 30-second thing, and it's like a
Right.
standing ovation every
Right.
time. They can't
That's
do
right.
any wrong. Yeah.
I get to spend some time with was 2 FERC engineers that came up from Washington.
Uh-huh.
And they discussed everything, the mechanics of our company, the physical and the fiscal, the dollars and cents. And they were very, very, very positive. I don't think we have any issue at the FERC level, but all of the state level stuff is the stuff that's crazy. I mean, we had trouble because our dam existed before 1973. We had a hard time proving that we were, in essence, a green facility, that were renewable. Finally, after a lot of legal battles, and VEPSA did us right, we got that opening. Our electric department, I mean, when I started 28 years ago, we used to have pretty regular blackouts.
Really?
We
Is that
didn't have,
right?
wouldn't happen anymore.
Really?
It's been re-engineered, the whole system is set up. We barely have, and if we have an outage, our system is so sophisticated, we know right where it is, we get to it. If it's a down pole or a tree that's fallen a limb on a wire, our guys get to it. we're typically less than 45 minutes without power
Yeah.
in a very small section. I mean, when we had the big happening up at the dam where our transmission system washed into the river there, that took a little bit longer. We couldn't see that coming. But we are so on top of the electrical service part of it. I mean, electricity is generation, transmission, and distribution.
Yeah.
We do all three, and we do all three very, very well. We have awesome people. Our people aren't unionized. They don't want to be. They collectively help our other departments. I mean, we are so gifted and so lucky. I mean, having that generation facility is a jewel. If we could set our own rates like the rest of the country does,
Yeah.
by the market,
Yeah.
and where we could use that tool to bring a electrical needed industry into Swanton, boy, would that be wonderful. But of course, in Vermont, you can't do that.
Number of customers, how many Swanton Village Electric customers?
3,800.
3,800.
Yep.
I think I mentioned, I ran into this, I think at the Highgate Town Meeting last year when there was a question from the floor, someone complaining about, I guess Vermont Electric Co-op saying, hey, with Swanton Village, I'd love to, be a customer of Swanton Village Electric, and because not that easy, I guess.
No.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one wants to give up their
I'm sorry.
territory.
So it sounds like the electric department, but just held in very high regard, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but, yeah, and talk about adding customers. Back, I remember, well, here we go with our history again. I remember back when George Legue was our village manager.
Yeah.
Vermont Electric Co-op was thinking about selling their between Swanton and Highgate lines, and we were really interested, but something got in the works there, and they pulled out on that deal, and they were also,
The state of Vermont,
yeah.
No,
the state of
we
Vermont
would be
politics
too
got
big.
in the way.
Is that
So,
right?
and
Yeah, we were
also,
thinking about the islands too.
Wasn't
yeah,
George,
also-
didn't George come from Vermont Electric Co-op? Wasn't he a Vermont Electric Co-op guy before he came to
Yes.
Swanton Village?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where George came from.
so,
yeah.
and they were also dancing with the idea of West Swanton selling it, but it would have been great for all of the Swanton community.
Yeah,
but-
they didn't even let us vote on it.
Really?
Wouldn't even hear of it.
West Swanton being Vermont Electric Co-op terrain in a lot of the islands, I
Yeah.
think, right?
Yes.
So, but like Bill says, that's
interesting.
impossible now.
Yeah. How's the wastewater facility upgrade? You got a positive vote on that a while back.
We did.
Is that moving ahead yet, Bill?
Yeah, we're in the queue for Swanton Development Review Board. We're in the queue for Act 250. We're in the queue for Vermont Wetlands Permitting.
Nice.
So those applications are actually, I signed off on those earlier this week. We have a 90% complete meeting coming up with our trustees on March 11th. Aldrich and Elliott is our engineer of record, and they'll be coming in to do a presentation. So I think we're on pace for a 2024 construction start with a 2025 completion.
Yeah. How big a project now? We're talking some mil for that too, right?
We have bonding authority up to 8 million, but through really, really favorable rates, loan forgiveness and grants, in particular, another 800,000 that Heidi found us
Oh.
through the state of Vermont. We probably are going to borrow between 4.9 and 5.1 million. Again, at a low rate, starting in 2026, the impact on our 1,500 wastewater customers
Yeah.
is 56 cents a day.
56 cents a day.
Correct.
That doesn't sound like too much of a hit. That sounds like a pretty good deal.
And we're fast tracking, I think I've talked about this on your show before. The centrifuge is really essentially what takes the sludge, dewaters it,
Yeah.
puts it in a holding area, we treat it, and then it gets land applied on Woods Hill Road every 2 years.
Oh.
That is on a fast track now to be the very first thing that's done in this project. So that will be 2024. We must have that to reduce the amount of sludge buildup in our two facultative lagoons.
Speaking of the wastewater facility, Lake Champlain water quality issues, does that come up with you folks much or not? Not particularly?
Not a lot. I mean, that's a source for our water, for
Sure.
our 1,550 water
Sure.
customers,
Yeah.
but no.
Yeah.
The town has been more affected by that.
Yes.
Yeah,
because
with a bunch of shoreline, obviously.
Yeah.
McQuam Bay, there's some disgruntled customers or voters down there.
Yeah, having
Yeah.
logged some time on McQuam Bay myself, yeah. it's-
Yep.
And, you know, they're, rightly so, they're upset, but
Yeah.
that's a state process, it's a state body of water, so,
Yeah,
yeah, they'll have to be patient for sure.
Yeah.
yeah. You got a lot going on. Any other kind of big project stuff going on that we haven't talked about?
We haven't
Water
talked
line.
about the water line. So the water line, that's the one that goes.
The highway, the Route 36 highway bridge?
Yes, so that's where the water line currently is.
Right, yeah.
So the water line is going to connect Canada with Foundry and go directly under the river.
Okay,
That's well underway. The last little hurdles have been cleared. We'll go to construction April, May timeframe. And then we just had a conference call today with McFarland Johnson. They're our vendor for the request for proposals that's going out to fix the bridge. So we have the expansion joints on Depot Street,
Yeah.
Vietnam Veterans Bridge.
yeah,
And we're just fingers crossed. We have what remains of a $200,000 grant. We set aside in this budget another $200,000. Fingers crossed that we can get this thing done for $400,000 or less.
wow. And again, Marble Mill Park, we'll get kind of waiting on dealing with the highway bridge first before you really tackle Marble Mill or not?
There's some downtown enhancements for accessibility that are happening. Again, that's likely 2025. Massive use. So we're doing all we can to keep it clean and useful, working very closely with Swanton Recreation.
Yeah.
Pickleball popularity it's an explosion.
Yeah,
It really is
they've
phenomenal.
almost got me. I almost played this
Yeah.
last Sunday. They've almost got me even,
Yeah.
but no, it sounds like an incredibly popular sport.
So very, very popular. Two of the courts at Marble Mill now really just have pickleball lines.
Wow, really?
Third one, the furthest one away from the parking lot, is still tennis. We have a new net ready to install as soon as the weather allows. But it's often utilized. We'd love to do more with it. We're always exploring grant options for that. We just don't know what that looks like. But it's another project that's in the queue.
Yeah, and of course, Swanton Town, a big project down the road, maybe coming up in November. Of course, a proposal for a new community recreation center, which
Yep.
the town folks have been working hard on.
Right.
And sounds like that might be before voters in November.
Yep.
But again, Neal, you touched on it. Boy, it just sounds like tough timing, as I mentioned. And other shows and off air, just with any municipality looking for a local project, just a school situation and soaring school taxes.
Yeah.
But like I said, timing stuff.
Yeah, right.
But our downtown's flourishing.
Yeah,
The Ace Hardware was the impetus that started everything.
yeah,
And the old theater building is being revamped. It looks like we'll have perhaps a restaurant and perhaps a bakery in there by spring. This enhancement projects we're doing, the traffic calming and the other pieces that are in the works are all, they seem little compared to some of this big stuff, but they're all quality of life things that people are looking forward to.
yeah.
I mean, it's pleasant to take a walk in downtown Swanton, and it's safe.
Yeah. So downtown, we talked about on the earlier show, Neal, downtown you think is showing some progress,
Oh,
movement?
yeah. And I might add that all the businesses, or all the new businesses downtown are female-owned and run.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
The
That's kinda
girls, the ladies are doing a good job down there.
Yeah.
Divine Treasures, Vision Nutrition, Swanton House of Pizza they have a new gal in there, well, new, it's a couple of years it's been in there. She's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And then our staples is Scampers. Marilyn's doing a good job.
Yeah.
And then across the street, we have Darcy Benoit
My
with Bees
friend,
on
my friend
Broadway.
Darcy sounds like done a real nice job.
Yeah, and of course,
Cool.
Jeff Domey's been there with the auto parts. And then there's the Winters Ace Hardware building.
Yeah.
And we're we're looking at, like the guys say, we're looking at enhancements. We're gonna put a sidewalk out in front of Merchants Row, so it'll be
Right.
handicap accessible. You won't have those steps in front of Merchants Row.
Yeah.
That's part of the downtown enhancements. We've purchased the land on the south end of Merchants Row for parking. We're gonna put a wall around that, upgrade that, pave the parking lot, so it'll go around the back too. A lot of positivity there that hopefully with the community support, we'll keep moving forward, so.
Talked to Sharon Busquet earlier, the Highgate Town Administrator, about the project at the Franklin County State Airport. And boy, she had, it sounds like dealing with good folks at one of the federal agencies was a little tough. But again, Highgate voters approved this a while back, but are we looking this year for extension of the water sewer lines from MVU to the airport?
We hope so.
You hope so.
We're ready to provide those resources.
Yeah. I guess what,
Absolutely.
I guess EDA is at the agencies hasn't been, I guess she just had some concerns about just the pace or lack thereof.
It's another example. So Neal was just talking about the sidewalk. That's where
Yeah.
you're going to get an exclusive on this, because I haven't told
Wow.
these guys yet. That's the one that might be delayed until 2025 because of the difficulty in obtaining permits for that type of work.
Really, for that type of work?
Mm-hmm.
Huh, is it an unusual type of work or something, or?
No, I think it's just a delay in a process that's
Really?
severely bogged down right now, and I don't know if it's
Yeah.
because the enhanced scope of work throughout the state of Vermont.
Yeah.
But again, back to as long as you have active, aggressive, grant-funded projects in the queue,
Yeah,
eventually they all catch up. You know, the next iteration is the backside of the park, and that's $600,000. We're chasing that.
yeah.
Then some streetscapes in front of Gordon's property on the other side. So there's always going to be a project. We just can't afford to be complacent.
Yeah.
You have to chase them because it takes 5 to 10 years in some cases for you to see any progress.
Yeah. Were you disappointed or any reaction when the Swanton Select Board decided to back off the sidewalk rec path from MVU to village limits, which was moving ahead for a while? And much reaction when they backed off that and decided not to pursue that, at least for the time being, or?
Was I disappointed?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
No,
I realized
I
it was a
wasn't.
town project, but
I was at that meeting and
were you not impressed with the project, or
I didn't see it happening.
is that right?
I mean, you had to put a crossing underneath the interstate on the ramps there, going through wetlands. Can you imagine, that's
Well,
putting aside
Going through
the
wetlands?
discontent of the property owners on 78
Right.
of having a sidewalk in their front yard. The possibilities of funding or permitting that project
Wow.
were unbelievable.
Oh, really?
So,
Interesting.
no, I wasn't disappointed. I think it was the right choice.
And it sounds like you think if they had moved ahead with it, it might have been pretty tough to pull that off, or it
Yes.
would have taken a long time or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And expensive.
Yeah.
So, but no, I agree with their decision.
Village-town relations, you folks seem to, are you still meeting quarterly with the select board?
That,
Neal, I know that-
next week, Monday the 26th, we're
Joint
going to have a
meeting.
joint
Correct?
informational meeting with the town
No, it's all
select
right.
board
Join in.
at the complex.
Okay.
So, but no, we're doing well, and I believe we can move farther forward for positive results for
Yeah.
both.
The police issue obviously has been a huge issue.
Uh-huh.
And again, that's a big issue, and the select board, I believe, is backing, I think unanimously backing the
Yes.
proposal for the police
Correct.
Yeah.
expenditure on the
Yep.
ballot.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Chris?
of course, Brian Savage was a village trustee for
Yeah,
years.
Brian knows
So
something
he-
about what goes on in the village, I guess.
He does, and he has not forgotten his roots.
Well, there are not many days where Brian and I aren't working closely
Is
together.
that right?
Yeah.
So a lot of conversations with
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Yep, I'm sitting down with Brian and Earl tomorrow, in fact.
Nice.
Uh-huh. So,
What other issue? Any other, we still have about 3 minutes. Anything else you want to touch on that we haven't touched on here?
I would like to thank this gentleman here
I bet.
for serving such a long time on our board. He's done a great job with our team. He's been an addition, a positive addition to our team all these years. Sometimes if he sits right next to me at our meetings, and if he gets off track, he's close enough so I can kick him under the table and quiet him down, but he's a knowledgeable man, and we're gonna miss him, so.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that the village did this. I mean, the fact that the people, I was asked to join the board
Huh.
way back when in '96, and then they have voted me in 9 times in a row.
Did you ever have an opponent?
A couple of times.
No, a couple
Yep.
times, wow.
And the fact is, that's so humbling to have that.
Yeah.
And I worked with some really great people. I mean, we've had Armin Messier. He was one of my first Eagle Scouts when I was the scout
Really?
leader.
Huh.
It was so cool to have him as one of the trustees. You know, he really, and he did a good job.
Yeah.
And he moved, and I think he'd still be interested, but he lives in the town now,
Oh,
he and
yeah.
his wife and his children.
St. Albans, yeah.
The experiences, the people we met, the things that we were able to accomplish, there's very few disappointments. I guess my only disappointment is the fact that not everybody that should vote votes.
Oh, you sure, yeah. There are plenty of people who don't vote.
My grandfather told all of his 6 grandchildren, we were so lucky to have been born in the United States,
Yeah,
and even luckier yet to be in Vermont.
yeah.
You know, and you need that to know that there's a price to be paid for that, and you need to step up and exercise your ability to actually be part of what makes this so great.
Yeah,
It's something that I preached it all my 28 years, come and vote, let's hear what you want. That was it. It was easier years ago to know what the silent majority wanted,
yeah.
but not so much now. That's why it's so important that people need to do their homework and come forward and vote, so that their representatives can operate to their real wishes.
Okay, on that note, we'll call it a day. Thanks to longtime outgoing village trustee Chris Leach. Thanks to our village president Neal Speer, again running for another 1-year term, and village manager Bill Sheets. Thanks for the time, and hopefully at least there'll be a good turnout on annual village meeting, town meeting day. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Thanks to my producer Josh Pryor. Thanks for watching us here on Northwest Access TV. We appreciate it. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. See you next time.